What's going on, YouTube? This is Reaper, and I am back with another video. Alright, well, I am sorry that it took forever for me to do another video this year, but I have been relaxing since New Year's Day, and I have been actually quite grinding the hell out of Black Ops 7, so do forgive me, but I have been actually taking a little bit of a break before I continue doing this. But today we are going to be talking about Black Ops 7 multiplayer, ranked, and the concept of the fact that cheaters are being basically blamed for the absolutely horrendous amount of, unfairness that you see in the actual multiplayer and ranked versions of Call of Duty. Now, granted, I will say this for the community. Sometimes cheaters are the problem, and sometimes there is another issue. Now, I think this other issue is more likely than having, tons and tons of cheaters running rampant across the internet. And this problem, unfortunately, is the fact that the population that now plays Call of Duty has been playing this game since the inception of the franchise. So the players that play Call of Duty nowadays have been playing this game and this franchise for over 20 years. Now, when you have 20 years of practice, people, you might look like a cheater, you might actually play like a cheater, but in reality, you're just so freaking goddamn good. And that is the unfortunate factor that a lot of these, I want to say, noobs, casuals, and just plain straight up dumb alpha Gen Z, players don't understand the concept of what they're walking into. And they're basically walking into a community that has been practicing this art of gaming for 2 decades. 2 decades. Now, I can understand if you have just picked up this game or you have just picked up this franchise, as unlikely as that might be, but if you are just starting out at this game and you are getting wrecked for a very, very good reason. And that reason is not people are cheating. People are just too goddamn perfected at actually playing Call of Duty now because this game has been out long enough for people to actually master it. And that is kind of the thing that I see while I play on my Series X. And I do admit that, sometimes there are cheaters, but more than likely, if you turn crossplay off, that doesn't happen. So my thing is that if you play with crossplay off and you don't play with PC, then you are more likely to run into a more, I want to say, fair and balanced match if that match actually starts, correctly and does not actually boot you back to the lobby because there is less than 8 people in the actual match. So my main thing would be is that, players, gamers, stop blaming cheaters. It's not cheaters are not the problem. The problem is that people are just too goddamn good. People are just too goddamn good. They have basically devoted their life to this franchise. They have devoted their time and energy into getting good at this franchise, and it just basically pales into comparison to what the noobs and the casuals actually know how to do so far. So I think that is lesson number one to take from the situation that we are encountering right now. But I got to admit that as long as, as long as there is internet, as long as there is, technology, there will always be hackers, there will always be cheaters. But I think that, the more you think about it, the more you realize that people aren't always cheating. They're just better than you, and they are just, devoted to this game, unlike you, who just play it for 1 to 2 hours a day or 1 to 2 hours a week. But these kids that are devoted to this franchise play this game legitly 12 hours a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They legitly have nothing better to do than devote themselves to this franchise. So I also want to point out that most of these gamers that are actually on Black Ops 7 now are all streamers, and they are all content creators, and they are all influencers and stuff like that. So they will have a higher skill gap than the normal casual. But I do admit that most people that, look at streamers and, influencers now kind of have a bad taste in their mouth because they think that they are ruining the franchise of Call of Duty and stuff like that. When in reality, I think they're just basically trying to help out the developers understand the community a lot more than the millennial Gen Z developers are able to understand the community at the moment. So I think that is part one. And then you will also get matches in Black Ops 7 where, you have team members that basically do jack absolute crap, whereas the opposite team basically wrecks you every single match. Now, in ranked, I don't think that should be the case because I think in ranked, if you do not enter ranked to compete and to actually win, you should not be in ranked. You should automatically just be in pubs, Warzone, Resurgence, I don't care. But, if you're gonna come to ranked, make sure you come to actually deal damage and you come to actually, put in effort. If you don't come into rank to put in effort for your team, then get the hell off the actual goddamn rank modes because they are going to basically get really, really, really sweaty really, really fast. And most of these casuals can't comprehend nor can they actually deal with that amount of actual stress. So I think that is actually really, really funny because you got all these noobs that don't know how to shoot straight, and then you got all these pros that know how to shoot exactly straight and kill you instantly. So I think that is actually quite funny. But, compared to, the early 2000s to now, I think this franchise has seen a humongous speed boost, a humongous gameplay boost, and a humongous skill gap actual difference. Because back in the boomer age of Call of Duty and the Gen X generation of Call of Duty, this franchise was so goddamn effing slow. Now, with the millennial and Gen Z brains going behind the devs and being behind the programming and being behind the actual development of Call of Duty, I can see that it actually gave the actual younger generation the leg up and gave it a better speed boost. Now, certain streamers do not like this, like the Rick, for example. Shout out to him because he is actually a really cool dude. He a young dude, but he still, has some facts that he dishes out, which I do agree with sometimes, but not always. But I will admit that, he just doesn't like that it's like completely a sweat fest. Well, guess what? This is a competitive game. It's supposed to be a sweat fest, Rick. I'm sorry. It just is. And if you don't like it, then go play another game. Don't devote yourself to a sweat fest if you can't deal the sweat. That's just how that works. But overall, I think it's really, really funny that people are blaming cheaters for almost every little mishap that goes wrong in a match, when in reality, it could just be the opposite person is just better than the opposite, person on the opposite team. And I think that is actually more likely than running into a humongous community of cheaters. And I think that is actually what people have to really start to realize is that people have actually devoted their lives to this franchise to get good. And now that they have, you have a whole bunch of casuals that don't stand a effing chance at actually competing because they do not have the time dedicated actually in this franchise to actually match the opposite actual competitors, which is actually really, really funny. But overall, I think that people have to start realizing that if you're not going to try in Call of Duty, then don't play. That's as simple as that. You gotta try. You gotta actually put in effort. If you don't put in effort, you don't put in actual skill. People are just not gonna want to play with you. People are just actually just not gonna want to run up with you. They're just gonna avoid you. They're gonna avoid you like the plague, and that's just how that is. But I think that's what a massive amount of the new generation of competitive games are gonna see is they're gonna see a lot of people that, don't actually do teamwork and they don't actually communicate with their team, and then boom, they don't play the game no more. And then they automatically drop off. But that's just kind of how it is. But overall, I hope everybody did enjoy my little spiel. And just for some context, in this match, I was 279 Master Prestige. And at the moment, after I actually did this video, I am now 289 Prestige. So I am only 11 levels away from 300. And that is 300 ranks or Master Prestige level 300 in less than 3 months. So, yeah, take that what it's worth. But, yeah, overall, I guess people have to try a little bit harder if they want to get good. And that is just the sad fact of the entire situation. But I hope everybody enjoyed my little spiel. I hope everybody has a good Valentine's Day. And I hope everybody enjoys their gaming. This is Reaper, and I am out.